Live from the 607 is the ODPH Entertainment Edition, where we're talking movies, comics, TV, and more. Why don't you join in the conversation? Hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome to another edition of the ODPH Entertainment Edition. I am your host, Ken M. Sitting across from me this week is the one, the only, Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
Folks, we have a lot to discuss. Let's waste no more time. Hashtag it up with us. Hashtag ODPH if you want to join in the conversation on social media, because, hey, we want to hear from you. Now, the biggest story of the week was going to be The Walking Dead, and we are going to get into their triumphant return this coming Sunday in a segment or two, but on Big Game Sunday, the Super Bowl was this past week. We did have some trailers that hit the screen, and dare I say, one stood out, highly anticipated, a lot to digest, and that is the latest one from Avengers Endgame.
Oh, yeah.
So, obviously, we know that there's a lot of hype if you've not been following the MCU.
I'll say unless you've been living under a rock.
It is possible. This is the sequel to Avengers Infinity War that we've been introduced to Thanos, who has made his triumphant introduction to the MCU. The devastating battle where half the universe has been wiped out.
I'll say his triumphant stepping into, I'm tired of you guys screwing this up. I'm going to do it myself.
Yep. And now we're dealing with the ramifications. And obviously we had the official teaser trailer released a while back. Didn't get a lot of details, but did get enough that it looks like it's going in the right direction. We were very happy with what we saw. So obviously this one had a little more footage, not a whole heck of a lot, but if you were definitely checking it out, there was some things to talk about. So that's what we're going to break down. We are going to be talking spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled about it, download this episode as you always do. Pop back in when you've caught up, because we're going to start talking about it in 3, 2, 1. Pad, what did you think of the teaser trailer?
I was very interested to see the teaser trailer, one, because we didn't know what we were going to get. I mean, like Ken said, the first trailer we got really didn't give you much. It just kind of gave you everything you already knew. This one I was interested to see, and it was very interesting to see kind of where the world's at, because the thing the Russo brothers have confirmed since the time Infinity War came out was it wasn't just half of life on Earth got wiped out. It was half of life everywhere in all of existence got wiped in half. The thing I didn't expect, and it's one of the first things we see in the trailer, is there's a shot of like a pier or a dock somewhere in New York. And it looks like something out of, the late 90s weather superstore movies, where some massive storm rolls in, throws everything onto the boardwalk and onto the streets and leaves it there. I was a little surprised to see that, because admittedly, okay, yes, half the Earth's population is gone. I didn't expect it to look like something out of a post-apocalyptic movie.
Yeah, it was something they did a kind of a slow rollout, and it looks like New York, and it looks like New York is wiped out.
I will say there's a shot of the Statue of Liberty. There's some great images from IGN that IGN has up from the trailer, or the teaser, whatever you want to call it. And there's a particular shot of the Statue of Liberty where I haven't been on the island where the Statue of Liberty is, but I've been around it.
Oh yeah,
it looks like something just got picked up and dumped in the middle there, because there's boats everywhere. There's just a lot of stuff there that you don't see if you go to the Statue of Liberty these days. Absolutely.
When you see a devastating effect of what Thanos did, you're seeing the ramifications stretch all over the world and all over the universe. We haven't even gone into, what happened outside planet Earth.
Right.
But as we're watching the trailer, we first see Captain America, played by Chris Evans, is at a support group. And we don't know who's with him.
Right.
But I would assume it's other survivors from the devastation.
Right. And it's in the shot where you see the poster of, it looks like a street someplace, and there's an elderly man on the right-hand side looking at a bench, and behind him are silhouetted figures. You can't tell who they are, but you can kind of guess. And then on the poster, it says, "Where do we go now that they're gone?" in all caps. And if you look to the left of that, out of focus, there are several people sitting in chairs sitting there, and then it cuts to Cap, sitting there talking.
Yeah, he might be just talking to other civilians. He might be talking to other heroes. We don't know. But it's how Cap is dealing with losing to Thanos and the ramifications.
Right.
And obviously it's taken a mental toll on him, as it would take on anybody.
Right, because they're not exactly, as we know, as has been confirmed, the world at large doesn't know the full details of what happened. They know something happened,
Right.
but they don't know what happened. It's very interesting. I'm very interested to see the kind of toll it's taken, because they're not exactly putting out these "where do we go now that they're gone" posters for motivation.
Right.
Something horrible has happened. I'm willing to guess that they're putting these posters out. They've all run underground for whatever reason. They being the heroes.
Well, obviously the heroes are taking the fault for it.
Right.
I mean, if you want to talk about the most high-profile heroes in the MCU, none are higher than the Avengers.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously with the attack from New York against the Chitauri in the first film to Ultron in the second film, the Avengers are always held responsible for what happens.
Yeah.
And obviously rightfully so. They're Earth's mightiest heroes in the MCU. So it makes sense. So now that they've gone underground because they can't explain what has happened.
Right.
And I think for a lot of them, they're still just trying to deal with, we lost half the universe.
Right.
And they don't even know it's half the universe at this point. They're just thinking it's half the world.
Right. And it's not, this isn't the first time they quote unquote lost. I mean, there was the Sokovia incident where that was awful. That was horrible. But this is like that multiplied by like 10 million, you know, and then they're dealing with, okay, not only did we screw up, we screwed up on an intergalactic scale.
Yeah, but they just haven't realized it's gone that far.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. But for Steve Rogers to sit there and realize this has happened, it's just taken a devastating effect on him. We don't really know where his head's at right now, other than he's trying to find a way to fix it if he can. And obviously, going to support group, he's dealing with his issues, and it's really a realistic take on what would happen.
Oh yeah,
if you know, a superhero loses a catastrophic event as he did. And as the trailer moves forward, we see Tony Stark with Nebula. We're not sure what point of the storyline it's going to be at.
I would presume. Well, I presume it's more towards the beginning of the movie, and just from looking at the image, because again, I'm looking at a 16 image set on IGN.com that they took from the trailer. It's Tony Stark with a callback to Iron Man 1. I just want to point that out. This is a callback.
Yeah.
This is a great callback to Iron Man 1, where he's, you know, goggles down, Weldon, she's behind him working on things. I would presume that this is before the scene we see in the first trailer where he's like half dead, half tired, half starved, recording a message. And this is them kind of trying to fix things and then realizing and I'm guessing here, realizing this is so far over my head and we don't have the parts or tools we need to fix this that I'm not going to make it.
Yeah, it's kind of a vague scene, but it's definitely noteworthy that obviously they're trying to figure out, you know, they're building something. They're trying to figure out, how can we maybe fix things? How do we save ourselves? We don't really know what's going on in the scene. We just kind of see a little homage back to the original Iron Man, which is a very cool thing. Obviously, you know, this is going to be the end of Act 1 of the MCU, and then obviously whatever happens next. And then we kind of see a little jump around, and this scene is kind of causing the most controversy in certain circles. And
it's getting some buzz.
It's getting some buzz because as you'll see War Machine, you'll see Hulk, you'll see Captain America and Black Widow in their civilian clothes walking. And one thing that's getting very analyzed about this, and I don't know, I'm going to bring it up to Pat here, is there is a spot that looks like somebody was edited out.
Yeah.
Is the running rumor.
Yeah.
What is your take on that?
Well, so I'm looking at the image here. The image takes place outside of Avengers compound in upstate New York. Gets dark, gets at nighttime, and going from left to right, you've got Black Widow, who's probably, you know, side by side distance-wise with Hulk. And then to the right of her, you've got, if you're just reading straight left to right, you've got Captain America, then it's Hulk, it's Bruce Banner. There's a noticeable gap. There's a very, very noticeable gap there. And then you have War Machine. I get where people are coming from, but I feel like it's reading too much into it. It may just be just how they spaced it, just how they did it. Maybe someone was edited out. I know people like to go over these trailers with fine-tooth combs, and I can't really say I'm not. I mean, I'm looking at stilled images here.
Yeah.
But the thing with a lot of these trailers is half of the shots aren't even going to end up in the movie. I mean, the one I think back to was the one for Infinity War where it was all the heroes and all of the Wakandan fighters running behind each other in slow motion in the forest. That was never in the film.
Yeah, it's one of those that it's getting a lot of hype, and obviously with Marvel, and everybody's trying so hard to find out secrets about this film.
Oh, God, yeah.
That everybody's jumping the gun and kind of thinking, okay, I know who got edited out. It's X or Y or Z.
Right.
If you ask my opinion, I think they did edit somebody out.
That could be.
And I think they edited Captain Marvel.
Ooh, that could be.
The only reason I'm saying that is depending on when they introduce Captain Marvel into the film, I think that it could definitely be her.
It could be, because the thing, I hadn't really gave this scene too much thought until I started seeing people online kind of debating it. If I had to guess, because the first thing that came to my mind was the scene from the first trailer where Ant-Man's at the door knocking on, hey guys, can you let me in? But then I'm like, it's not that, because that scene's during the day, this one's at night. The thing that came to mind, and I'm going to bounce off of your Captain Marvel thing, is it could be her, because the way they're looking up into the air, and the way, particularly Captain America, he's looking up in the air with a look that I can only describe as, I can't believe what I'm seeing. And that would lead me to believe that in some capacity, Tony Stark is there now, whether it's sitting on top of a ship and he's going to crack a wise joke like he typically would. Who's to say? That's kind of the vibe I'm getting off of this. This might be the scene where he makes it back to Earth and they see each other for the first time since Civil War.
Could be, and that's a very good theory. Our listeners are going to definitely have to hit us up on hashtag ODPH and throw in their contribution for that. Because it could go a lot of different ways. It could just be over-speculating.
Right.
And I could fully believe that, too. I'm not saying that there's definitely somebody edited out, because that would take a lot just to edit out for a 30-second trailer.
That's expensive.
That's expensive. Not to say that Disney wouldn't do it.
Right. They got the money.
But I'm saying maybe not. But if I make my guess, I'm saying it's Captain Marvel. And as we see the trailer is still progressing, we're starting to see Rocket make his appearance, post the devastation. And we're not really seeing a whole heck of a lot of what's going on there. We are seeing Black Widow is taking shooting practice for some reason. And I mean, obviously,
keep her skills sharp.
Keep her skills sharper. That's how she's dealing with the traumatic effects.
That is entirely likely.
And I would fully believe that.
Yeah, I would too.
And then you see a shot then of Ant-Man and War Machine armoring up, so to speak.
Yep.
And not really a lot to go on there, but you're obviously seeing that something is happening that's causing them to get prepared for battle. And then you see Thor walking out of a cave-like area. And Pat and I have been going back and forth about this. I think Thor is on Titan.
It could be.
And that is my guess. Pat, you had a different idea, though?
I don't know. I get the Titan thing, but it took I can't see how it'd be Titan, because he'd only ever be on Titan if he was pissed off and going after Thanos. But it took all of that. Well, not every MCU hero, but darn near every MCU hero they had, and they still lost. Why would he go after them single-handedly?
Because he's Thor.
That's true. I just like to think it's wherever he's setting up Asgard as now. I like to think it could be that. It could be wherever because you think back to Thor Ragnarok, Asgard's gone. I like to think it's, he's going to find some place that could be New Asgard, and he's licking his wounds.
It quite possibly could be. I mean, it depends if they want to go and follow the story where they are setting up post Siege. Or I'm sorry, Siege would be the storyline. Post Secret Invasion is what I'm trying to say. When I believe Asgard is set up in Oklahoma.
That could be.
At that time. It just depends on really where they're setting up. For me, though, I think that he is there, and I also think Rocket's there, too, because it kind of looks like they're in the same place.
It could be.
Maybe not the same scene, but definitely looks like they're the same place. And if you think about it, who are the two most hot-headed heroes that survived the devastation?
Those two.
And you would think, okay, maybe you guys want to rethink this plan? No, they're obviously thinking, let's go take out Thanos. I fully am banking on that. And as we see the ship is going, you do see Ronan or Hawkeye, depends. Jeremy Renner is in the scene. And he's in some place that could be a broken down ship, could be a cave. We really don't know, but he's looking for something, or he sees something.
Dude looks like he needs some hair gel, too. That hair is wild.
Yeah, he's definitely looks like he's gone through some stuff in this scene. Don't exactly have any details in that. Can't really break it down per se. And then you see that somebody is tightening the Captain America shield on their wrist. Obviously, we think this would be Steve Rogers.
Presumably, because he didn't have it in the last one, and he hasn't had it, as we said, since Civil War when he dropped it.
Right. So one would tend to think it's him. It could be somebody else entirely.
It could be.
We don't really know that. And then you kind of see them walking off. They're going on to Quinjet or something in that perspective, and you kind of see the silhouette walk. That's where they leave it hanging.
Yep.
A lot of definitely ideas are coming to mind.
Okay.
One, if they have the plan, and depending on where they're going, obviously I don't think they'd just go completely by themselves, however many are left, 5, 6 of them.
Right.
After Thanos without a good plan.
Right.
Obviously Captain America has a plan. At this point, we do see Scott Lang. And it is heavily rumored that the quantum realm, which was featured heavily in Ant-Man and the Wasp, is going to play a factor in this somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible to say that the van that he has brought up, they're going to try accessing to get to either Thanos or go back in time and fix things?
I plead the fifth.
Okay.
I plead the fifth.
That would be kind of where I'm guessing where they're walking to. And obviously I could see it just being a little fun moment per se when they're doing the walk.
Right.
That they're doing the big dramatic walk in the hangar to only go outside to somebody's van.
That could be.
I could fully see that because I could see Scott Lang saying, hey, I got my plan. It's in my van.
Mm-hmm.
How he would know and how he got out of the situation he was left in from Ant-Man and the Wasp still remains to be seen.
I can totally see, like you said, I can totally see a scene where like he shows up, he's been gone a while, and he catches up with what happened and figures it all out. Because to this point in the film's history, he's, as we know it, he's sitting in the quantum realm not knowing what the F happened.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to make it. He obviously makes it back. He's going to find out. And it's, I guess, in some way, Captain America's going to go, yeah, we're trying to figure out what to do, but it took all of us, half of us are gone and we lost with all of us.
Yeah.
And he's going to, oh, you need more guys? Oh, I know a way to do it. Oh, how? Well, it's out here in my van.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be definitely interesting to see how they pull it off because we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the fun thing about this. I have an idea because I've read the Infinity Gauntlet. It's a great comic. If you got the time to pick up the trade paperback, I highly recommend it. But you're going to see differences in the MCU than you are going to see in the book.
Obviously.
And we can't stress enough, and I'm not going to go into any details, anybody that's under the Fox studios, you're not going to see involved in this.
Nope.
Done deal. So obviously there's going to be some changes to the story if you read the comic to this. Albeit, though, there's a lot more vagueness with the trailer, and that's what I like about this.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm saying. I'm getting some ideas that I'm trying to figure out where Thor and Rocket would be.
Right.
I'm getting an idea of how they're dealing with it. And they're almost taken in a very loose connection, kind of like how Heroes in Crisis is showing us heroes are dealing with the traumatic experiences they go through.
Right.
For Captain America, Steve Rogers, you got to think. He was the one that had the plan and was there fighting Thanos to the very end and literally saw the snap happen in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
How traumatic is that for him?
Yeah.
We don't know where Thor's head's at, other than I'm sure it's only on one thing and one thing only, and that's find Thanos.
Right.
If you're going to be Avengers, you have to avenge something. That's kind of how the name works.
This is true.
So to see where they go with this, there's a lot of different possibilities. Obviously, I don't have any concrete proof or any, solid information of where the movie's going to go. Other than it's going to be the last one that we see the core group of Avengers that we currently seen over the past 10 years. And I think there's a lot of different ways they can go setting up the future. Captain Marvel is going to kick it off, and there's no question of that. And I think there's going to be a lot more Easter eggs in that movie that people really need to watch than they realize.
Right.
And I think you're going to start seeing some of those Easter eggs show up in Avengers Endgame. What that leads to still remains to be seen.
Right. No, that's not the only piece of Endgame news. There was an article that came out today, or an interview that came out today. The Russo brothers did an interview with Collider.com where they discussed the length of the film. Because there's been a couple rumors, there's been a couple talking back and forth. Back in November, they said that about halfway through the editing process, they said the film was around 3 hours long. But this was before they really got deep into editing. Well, they said today that the film is still at about 3 hours long with a lot of the editing done. And a lot of people are wondering, well, it's 3 hours long. Are you going to put a break into it? They said no, because in 3 of the 4 test screenings they've done, not one person has gotten up to go to the bathroom at any point during the film. So currently, if this holds, and it is at the 3 hour mark, this would be the longest Marvel Cinematic Universe film to date.
And I think it needs to be.
Yeah, with as much as you're dealing with, and you're closing the book on Act 1, as Ken said, you need a lot of real estate, and they've got a lot of real estate.
They've got a lot of real estate. They got to cover a lot of ground. And plus, I agree with them. Why would you put in a break? You don't need to.
Right.
Because we've seen with Avengers Infinity War, that was near 3 hours.
That was close.
That was close. But did it feel like it? If you watch that film and you talk to anybody that really liked that film, did anybody ever think about getting up if they didn't have to?
No, that was one of the times that I go to a movie and at no point did I ever think about real world time. I was kind of sucked in and trapped until the very end of the credits, until we hit the credits, and then I looked at the clock. I was like, oh wow.
Yeah, and I think you're going to have the exact same thing happen in this film, without question. The Russo brothers are going to close out the MCU version 1, however you want to define it, in one way, and that's an epic finale.
Mm-hmm.
And how they leave it in the hands moving forward, I don't know. I'm still holding out they're going to do Secret Wars, the Jonathan Hickman story.
I think you'll start to see the seeds planted in this.
I really do. I don't think people understand how badly I want to see that film done. But definitely, to close out the segment, Avengers Endgame has only stolen a lot of thunder away from Super Bowl weekend. It definitely was the talk of the commercials. That and the Game of Thrones Bud Light one.
That Game of Thrones Bud Light one was amazing.
That was. And we'll get into Game of Thrones later when the season starts coming closer. But definitely let us know what you think. Hit us up on that hashtag. Hashtag ODPHEE for the Entertainment Edition. What was your thoughts on the new Avengers Endgame trailer? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward, no steps back.
Hey, this is Vince the Common Man Ciatoy, local MMA fighter, telling you to keep on listening to the ODPH, the 607's up-and-coming newest podcast.
We knew right where we'd be, floating on the airwaves, you see. It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward and no steps back. We knew right where we'd be.
Come back for segment number 2 on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition. And this coming Sunday, since football is done, there's one show that will take over Sunday nights, and that's The Walking Dead.
Yes.
And we're now on the midway point of Season 9, just renewed for Season 10.
Mm-hmm.
Pat, your thoughts on that?
Not entirely surprised. I feel like the story's not quite done. I feel like, where they are in the story and the cliffhanger they left us with Rick being sucked up into the helicopter and the group being kind of left at odds and certain villains and enemies coming to them. I feel like you can't put a bow on it quite yet.
You might not. I think the only thing that they need to kind of worry about at this point is who's going to be coming back for Season 10.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's one character that they're not sure if she is going to be returning or not.
Yeah, that'd be Denai Guerrera, of
Yeah.
course, who plays Michonne and is famous for being in the Black Panther films in the MCU.
To lose her for Season 10, I think, would be huge.
That's not shocking, though, that she might not be back, because I remember right when Black Panther released, and it was really hitting its stride at the box office, and it was doing monster numbers. Now we're talking, what was it, like a year ago? Mm-hmm. A year ago, we were talking a year ago that there were rumblings, and it wasn't like rumors or anything like concrete. It was just kind of like speculation on the internet that she wouldn't come back then because of the success she had experienced with Black Panther. This isn't a left field thing for me. I kind of figured, all right, she's going to leave at some point.
I agree, too, and that's why I said this would be huge, but not on a good sense.
Right.
I think it would definitely hurt the show.
Oh, yeah.
Immensely.
Yeah.
Immensely. And like I can understand it. If that's what she wants to do, definitely is entitled to do it.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't struggle with that per se of the decision to leave, but I'm just looking at the show standpoint. You've already lost Andrew Lincoln, who is now going to be doing the movie
The
trilogy, whatever.
The spinoffs.
The spinoffs. You've definitely seen some characters long-standing that are no longer part of the show. Lauren Cohen is doing the ABC show coming up. So a lot of the bigger names and the ones that fans are very familiar with are not on the show anymore. So with Guerrera, you don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, I think that she would take over the lead role of the show along with Norman Reedus.
I was going to say she'd split it with Norman Reedus, probably about 50-50, yeah.
Yeah, and that would make perfect sense to do. So if you're
because legitimately, if Norman Reedus leaves the show, people will riot.
Well, absolutely. The fan base is solely locked in on him, and rightfully so. He's earned that spot on the show along with Guerrero. That's why I say to lose one of those two going into Season 10 would be extremely difficult to overcome.
Right.
Would be extremely. And I understand the storyline is still going on. The comics are still going. But we can't rely on the theory of following the comics anymore.
No.
That's completely out the window. The minute you removed Rick Grimes from the playing board, anything can happen on that show.
Alternate universe timeline type of thing.
Yeah. And I don't know where I really feel about that. The more I kind of sit there and think about it, I kind of go back and forth a lot. I like to see where the story follows to the books with little changes here and there.
Sure.
This is so much of a departure that you're going to try forcing certain characters into roles. I don't know how that's going to resonate and translate. I don't know yet. I'm waiting to see. And obviously, they're now embarking on the Whisperer saga.
Yep.
Which I am super excited about.
It's going to be so good.
They need to, because I think one thing that's hurting the show, and obviously the ratings are what the ratings are. not as strong as they have been in the past, but definitely better than a lot more shows on TV than people realize. I think that gets lost in the headlines a little bit. For The Walking Dead, at its core, it's a horror show.
It's in the name of the title, Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Not walking bad guys.
And I think when they started getting away from that, and I understand that that's what happens in the comics, where you kind of start seeing that the zombies are not the ones that you need to worry about.
Right.
It's the other humans.
And to a certain degree, that makes sense because you can only do so many episodes of a TV show if the only enemy, the only focus of your heroes, of your main characters is zombies. Like, that'll get stale and old real quick, real fast. And I understand that you need to introduce characters like Negan, like the governor, like insert villains from previous seasons. That makes sense, but I agree with you. It's gotten to the point where they don't even worry about the walkers anymore. Like, I think back to earlier seasons where they were at the prison, where they took the prison because, it's got giant, 15, 20 foot high chain link fences with barbed wire, guard towers, and it's double fence. We can stay away from the walkers real good with this. And when the horde was surrounding the prison and threatening to knock over the fences, oh crap, we got to take care of it. The walkers. Well, now it's like, oh yeah, hey, walkers are here, dead.
Yeah, they become the secondary characters on the show.
Right.
Which really was thrown for a loop at the mid-season finale. And we are going to be talking spoilers about that, but it's been enough time now, so we're going to be talking about them. So you've been forewarned that when they killed off Jesus on the show, if you were a casual fan, that threw you for a loop.
Yeah.
If you read the books,
Yep.
you knew who was coming, and how they made their dramatic appearance on the show. Definitely well worthwhile.
Yeah.
And obviously they need to make a statement. And I was very shocked that they killed him off on the show. But they definitely wanted to have that, I want to say like the Abraham effect. That when Abraham was killed off on the show, it was a real shock to a lot of people's systems because of how strong of a character he was. Same thing with Jesus on the show. That you have the characters that definitely are strong members of the community there, and to see them get picked apart, you know that the threat is now that much more dangerous.
Well, and especially it's a shock to casual fans because if you haven't read the comics, you're just sitting there, you just watch the show. You know the comics are a thing, but you don't read them. In the back of your head, you might be thinking, okay, this is a show where zombies are involved. People are at their absolute worst moral-wise. They will do absolutely anything necessary, and I mean anything necessary to survive. You would think in the back of your head that, okay, a character with the name of Jesus, there's no way they'll kill a guy with the name of Jesus. It's Jesus. Surprise! They did.
Well, they kill. I mean, and I like the sense that they get back to taking out major characters. They haven't done that since season 1 or 2.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, it's been very.
I'd say when T-Dog died in season 3.
Season 3.
Season 3, season 4, something like that.
It's been very protective about how many major characters they kill off. And obviously, the Glenn and Abraham one was a benchmark that they needed to hit because obviously...
Oh, God, yeah. It's iconic.
Yeah, it's an iconic part of the story of The Walking Dead. So, obviously, when they decided to take out a major character like Jesus on the show, that definitely threw everything for a loop because he's still around in the comics. He still plays a very big part. So, I mean, for mainstream fans that are so used to their characters and they get attached to them, to see a big player get taken off the board like that was a huge shock.
Yeah.
And for a lot of them that don't understand the whole storyline of the Whisperers, that's going to be even a bigger shock moving forward.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't want to spoil that because I think you definitely want to have that surprise hit you on the screen. And to see where they go from here, obviously, if you've read the books, it's a different story.
Right.
It's a completely different story. And different characters are now going to be differently inserted into the story. That's what I'm trying to say with this. How that's going to translate, I don't know.
Right.
Because the storyline with the Whisperers was so Carl heavy. And obviously Daryl Dixon is on borrowed time as far as the storyline goes because he was never written into the comics as to date.
Right.
So obviously...
It's the biggest X factor they've had since season 1.
Exactly. So whatever happens with him, it's not to say he's on borrowed time that he's going to get killed off. I want to stress that. But you don't know where his storyline is going to go with them. And I think that's a fun factor.
Yeah.
But it's also one that you don't want to have him get so comfortable as in the character that you don't think anything can really happen to him.
Right.
And I think with the Whisperers, if they really wanted to send some shockwaves to the fan base, they should have killed off Daryl instead of Jesus.
Right.
That would have been huge.
Oh, yeah.
That would have crashed the internet for a couple hours. They didn't. So now we got to kind of see how Daryl and Michonne are going to be working together to defeat this. And I know that the trailer that they left off teasing the second half of the season was Alexandria must survive. The kingdom must survive. And obviously, if you read the comics, you know how the Whisperers truly make their entrance.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see it happen on the show. I don't know if it's going to happen on the show. I think that might be too much of a shock value for the casual fan base.
I mean, we thought that you and I had the same discussion years ago when we were talking about Glenn's death. We didn't think they'd be able to do it on TV because we didn't think they'd be able to pull it off and get it past, just get it done on TV.
Yeah.
I think I get where you're coming from, but I think they've proven with Glenn's death and how they literally recreated it shot for shot from the comic. I think they'll do what you're referring to on the show.
But my only question with that, and I pose this on social media too, if they do it, and like I said, I am a stickler for following the story. I think they should.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows the reaction Glenn's death got from the mainstream fans of the show.
Yep.
With that scene coming up, how do you think that scene, if they did follow that, would affect the mainstream fans?
I don't think it'd be as big a reaction.
Okay.
I don't. I think people would be like, "Oh, that was shocking," but I don't think it would be near as like I'm giving up on the show.
No, I don't think they should. I mean, that's the thing. People need to remember at the end of the day, it's a show about zombies.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be taken as serious as it is. It's a very interesting story, and the fact that they're now going to be going on 10 years, which I know that it's kind of like a mixed choice of if they should continue on or not. But like you said, Pat, there's still a lot of story to be told.
Mm-hmm.
Where they want to go with the storyline remains to be seen. There's so many different directions, but as long as you have Daryl, and we're presuming Michonne has not officially announced that that character will be leaving the show.
Right.
So obviously you still have a very good core element on the group. And then depending on what they want to go with that, you still have Jeffrey D. Morgan playing Negan.
Mm-hmm. He's not going anywhere anytime soon, I imagine.
He's not, except to the Supernatural 300th episode.
Right.
Which is coming up very shortly too, by the way. And I know I'm getting off topic, and I don't want to get off topic. But to see where the show has gone, and now on season 10, if you really think about how far it's gone, and definitely where it's inserted itself in pop culture, it's truly astonishing to see a show like this work.
Yeah.
And to see the fan base is still pretty much as loyal as ever. I mean, some mainstream fans have probably, obviously the ratings have dipped a little bit, so some have moved on. But just to see how far the storyline has gone and the fan base has grown is truly remarkable to see.
Right.
And where they come back with, it's going to be a strong season, I think, in my opinion, because where they left off in the mid-season finale is where they needed to be. Mm-hmm. It needed to be scary. It needed to be intense. It needed to be a horror movie.
Yeah.
It looked like they're a step in the right direction. How they carry it through the rest of the season is going to be really interesting to watch. Mm-hmm. And definitely I'm going to be tuned in on Sunday night.
Absolutely.
But let us know what you think. Hit us up on that hashtag, ODPHE. What's your thoughts on The Walking Dead coming back? Are you excited as we are? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hello, this is Tom.
This is Bill.
This is Nick.
This is Jimmy.
And we are Floodlands, and you're listening to you're listening to a podcast on the ODPH.
Come back for another segment on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition, and we're talking about The Walking Dead making it for season 10. Mm-hmm. And there was another show that had a milestone this week as well.
Yeah.
And that is Arrow.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the CW's long-reigning DC Comics show starring Oliver Queen, a.k.a. Stephen Amell, has hit its milestone. It's been renewed for season 8, but it finally hit its 150th episode.
That's insane.
It's truly remarkable to see.
Yeah.
Because of considering the character when it came out and really where the benchmark has been set for it. Mm-hmm. And obviously, doing a 150th episode, they were doing something special for it.
Does sound a little different.
Definitely. Pat, do you want to break it down for us?
Yeah, so it was the 150th episode, and there was some, if you read the articles online, you knew they were going to do something for it. They weren't just going to do your stereotypical run-of-the-mill episode of Arrow. And right out the gate, they throw everybody for a loop, and they start with the WB Films opening logo. It's the glittering, shimmering gold shot of the WB Studios, and then it turns into the WB logo with the fanfare and the whole nine. And I was watching myself going, wait, am I on the right night? Am I on the right time slot? Am I watching the right thing?
Yeah, it was wild to see, and we are going to be talking spoilers about the episode too. It was something that we didn't expect seeing.
No.
Because they usually have the typical Arrow, my name is Oliver Queen.
Right.
And they like the DC CW shows do.
Yeah.
So to see them go with the WB logo, that was something that was like, okay, something's definitely different with this episode. Mm-hmm. And then going into it?
Yeah, going into it, it comes, of course, as we stand in the season, Oliver Queen is known as the Green Arrow. Everyone knows he's the Green Arrow. He's been deputized by the Star City Police Department. And in a probably PR move, they never really say, a way of kind of fleshing out what it exactly in the world is going on, there's a documentary film crew following him around for presumably a while. I don't think they ever set a time length of how long they were following him around for.
I thought they said somewhere around 3 years.
Okay.
I thought, but don't quote me on that. I'm just, something was vaguely sounding right.
Right. It
about that.
wasn't like, oh, yeah, we followed him around for a day or for a week, but they're following him around, interviewing people, and kind of talking about where he started, how he got to where he is, and following the antics that ensue while they follow him.
Yeah, it was something to see. I mean, obviously they brought back Captain Lance and Sarah Lance, and
it was old footage
from the show, which was really interesting to see. And they showed obviously early footage of John Diggle, and it was like a really nice homage to the history of the show without making it like too sentimental and going back down memory lane. It was a unique take on it that they were doing a documentary about Oliver Queen, and let alone he signed on to it,
right? Which
was also kind of interesting too.
It was interesting, but it made sense because later in the episode, I want to say it's like the third act of the episode, the police chief Dinah is in her office kind of moving papers around, looking at stuff, and the TV's on, and it's the news channel, and it says, you know, that the public approval or disapproval, whatever you want to look at it, of Oliver Queen being on the police force is like the approval rating is like, or the disapproval rating is like 77% of the people don't approve of it. So I'm guessing that's not an overnight like, oh, hey, yeah, nobody approves of it. This has probably like been building and really nobody agrees with it given everything that's happened. So this is kind of, because he also goes on that talk show, late night show, whatever that is, and does the expose to have a talk with him and Laurel, and does that. I'm guessing this is another way that like he's trying to go, hey, listen, it's not as bad as it may seem.
Yeah, it's his way of trying to defend why the Arrow is needed in Star City. Because obviously they passed now the anti-vigilante law.
Right. And
the ramifications of that for the team has been very, very mixed. Because obviously they're trying to save the city, but the city doesn't want them to save them. It's such a weird metaphor, but it is what it is. So to see them where they're going, and obviously at this episode there's somebody hunting vigilantes. That I did like the nod that they said that the person had Wayne Tech as his armor. And at first glance, I honestly thought it was Arkham Knight.
Oh, that could have been.
For the first, like, for a second.
Awesome.
It was not, but I was waiting for them to say it, because the one thing that they've been mentioning throughout the season, and I love how they're tying it more and more into it, they did show, obviously, Star City, Central City, and they flat out named Gotham City.
Oh, yeah.
So I know it's a nod pretty much to Batwoman and the Ruby Rose series that's coming out. But it's a very cool nod that they're actually now acknowledging Gotham.
Yeah.
And they really haven't...
And it's not the wink, wink, nudge, nudge, poke, poke of seasons past.
Right. They're really mentioning Gotham and really, I think, building up to the introduction of Batwoman into the DC TVU.
Right.
So to see them give the little nods like that, but also tying into the past as well, because obviously they interview Barry Allen on the show, and they're really tying into almost like how they first met Oliver Queen.
Right.
And I think that's such a really cool nod to, they're trying to really say, okay, whatever universe you want to define it as. I say the DC TVU. To see them really kind of tie everybody together, I think is a nice nod to see the growth of the series that have come on the show.
I got to say,
come on the network, rather.
And I got to say, I love the interview Barry did for the documentary where he's talking and the interviewer asked the question, well, did you know he was Green Arrow before he knows it? What? Did I know? No, I had no idea.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's playing dumb because his identity has not been revealed to the public either. So it's just such a cool throwback to like the superhero days that we really, you see sometimes, but you don't really see a lot. So, I mean, I was definitely into where they were going with it. And as they're going after the vigilante hunter, it was kind of nice to see that now Oliver has finally accepted he needs to have Team Arrow with him.
Right.
And I guess I kind of felt two ways about this. One, for the show purpose, yeah, you definitely need to have them back together. Whether you call them a team like the Outsiders remains to be seen. Team Arrow is just kind of like, all right, it's kind of a generic name, but you know, it is what it is. But obviously they needed a way to bring back everybody into the fold. And they've introduced so many characters online, which definitely, the fact they brought Ragman back.
Yeah.
That was very surprising because a lot of people forgot about him.
I did. I'll admit it.
Yeah, it took me a second. I was like, oh, yeah. I forgot they introduced him on the show when they were doing like Team Arrow 2.0 or 3.0, whatever the case is. But either way, the fact that they brought them all back together and whatever they wanted to define that team as, I thought it was a very cool nod. But it also, in my opinion, and I know I've been very vocal on other shows, I also like to see when the hero is just one hero on the show.
Right.
And I think that that's one thing that was helping Arrow per se is when it was just focused on Oliver Queen versus Ricardo Diaz. Mm-hmm. That's where the strong element came through. It's nothing against the actors or the writing, but for me, it's like I just like to see the one focused hero.
Sure.
But the team adds a certain element to it. When there's a bigger threat, yeah, you obviously need help.
Right.
But when Arrow succeeds on its most, I like it when it's one-on-one action, Oliver versus one other person.
Right.
You have your supporting cast with you, but when you start implementing a team and turning Arrow into a team book, if that's going to be the next phase of Arrow, sure. But for me, I like to see when it's one-on-one. So it's kind of like twofold. But I think for the storyline purpose, it made a lot of sense because by the time that they defeated, we'll just call him the Arkham Knight wannabe, then the mayor, who had been so anti-vigilante, if that makes sense, flipped her stance, so to speak,
Right.
and deputized the team.
Well, I don't think she necessarily flipped her stance because if I remember right, at the end of the episode, they even brought up, oh, I thought you hated this idea. And she says, listen, I do. I don't agree with this. But at the end of the day, she realizes that she needs their help.
Yeah, and I think that's something that they need to come around to, as in the people of Star City. Because we see that more threats are coming there. And obviously, since Oliver Queen has been back, there's been how many near catastrophic
Yeah, that gets brought up.
events. Yeah. Every year there's something that happens for the most part
Yeah.
to Star City. So it's something that with Oliver it comes with a lot of baggage. But I thought the style that they shot this in was very interesting.
Yeah.
For especially a documentary, because as you see in the future that somebody is reliving this footage. Now, Pat, did you guess who Connor was involved at the end scene?
No.
Connor Hawke.
Ooh.
That's my early ODPH
Ooh.
guess.
Ooh.
Because he was not introduced in the Legends of Tomorrow episode. That was John Diggle Jr.
Right.
But I'm going out on a limb and saying that's Connor Hawke.
It could be.
If you know the Green Arrow history from the comics, you know who Connor Hawke is. He did step in at one point to become Green Arrow. He has a very unique fan following, I will say that. We haven't really seen him too much in the comics lately, per se. At least I haven't been able to catch up on it, but somebody hit me up on the hashtag ODPHE and fill me in. But to see him get introduced to the show, I think is very cool, especially now that we're seeing Oliver's sister get introduced,
Right.
Miko, into the show as well. So to see where that's going to go play out, I think it's a nice infusion to the show, especially with the uncertainty of what's going to happen next year with Crisis on Infinite Earths. So to see it 150 episodes in, is it going to get to 300? Arguably, no.
Probably not.
That's a tough feat to do.
Yeah.
It's not to say it's impossible. As we were saying, Supernatural, which was renewed for season 15, is going to go well over 300.
Yeah, I was saying anything that hits 300 episodes or more, it's got to be, Lord, it's got to be 20 seasons or more.
Yeah, it's
And that's reserved for, like, the Law and Orders.
Yeah, and to think about for a superhero show to get as far as Arrow has gotten, they definitely have to get their nod. Because in this day and age, you don't really hear about superhero shows on TV getting as far as they have.
So not even superhero shows in general. A lot of shows these days don't even hit the 100 episodes. That's why you hit 100 episodes, it's always a milestone. I mean, the only thing that can come close for superhero shows, I think, is, and I had to look this up, is Smallville. That one went for 10, 11 seasons. That had 217.
Right. So the fact that Arrow got to 150 is truly an astonishing feat in its own right. And kudos to everybody involved with Arrow.
Yeah.
Because they took a hero that was definitely not in the high-end spectrum, per se, of the DCU.
Right, and to my knowledge, the only time he'd been shown outside of the cartoons and in the comics was in the Smallville run where Justin Hartley was playing him. And I'll be honest, he was the billionaire playboy with a lot of money and tech, but also they made him kind of like the comedic relief at times.
This is true, because if you know anything about Green Arrow in the comics, he's written a lot different than how Oliver Queen, or Stephen Amell plays him, rather, on screen. So to see the difference there, I mean, unless you're really, really picking at it, there really isn't anything that you really are not into and seeing Arrow. I mean, other than like how he originally came off as an original, I guess, wannabe Batman. Right. But he's evolved his character, and I think that's very kudos to Stephen Amell's portrayal of him. That we've gone from being the, Batman wannabe to his own hero, and now definitely on whatever Earth you want to define the DC TVU as, he is the centerpiece hero.
Yeah.
He's the benchmark everybody sets up to. And it's kind of wild to see because other than you'd see DC or Green Arrow in the comics with trick arrows. I mean, they did a nice play of it when they had the Wildcat episode and he had the punching bag arrow.
Yep.
Or the punching mitt arrow.
The punching glove, yeah.
Yeah. So to see how far our Arrow has came, I mean, it's been nothing but a success. Because to think where they've come, and obviously the documentary episode just kind of showed it in tenfold, the effect Oliver Queen has on everybody around him in that Earth.
Yeah.
To see where they go from here is going to be something truly to watch, and especially with Crisis on Infinite Earths, which we're not even sure Arrow's going to make it past that.
This is true.
In its current form.
This is
I
true.
want to clarify that. They are renewed for another season.
Yep.
But who knows what's going to happen? Is Oliver going to pass the mantle?
Again,
which it could happen.
Yeah, it could.
Yeah, unless they, of course, make it into Green Lantern starring Jon Stewart, who is John Diggle, and you can't tell me otherwise.
This is true.
But overall, though, Pat, final thoughts on the episode?
Love the episode. I think the parts of these episodes that lately intrigue me the most are the flash forwards and just kind of the glimpses we see into the future and kind of the mystery of what's going on. You know, I like those the most thus far, but the story overall is very interesting. I can't wait to see where it goes.
Arrow has come a long way from its original inception. Mm-hmm. It's definitely had some highs and it's definitely had some lows. But recently, especially this season, it has been by far the DC TVU's best show, bar none. It's definitely stepped its game up. It's made Oliver really re-examine his character and really set the tone for the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover, which is coming next year.
Oh, yeah.
A lot's going to be riding on Arrow's shoulders to carry it through. I don't see it faltering by any means. In fact, it's only going to make another show coming, hopefully, Batwoman, stronger in the overall DC Universe picture. Because when Arrow's doing good, it seems like the rest of the shows are doing good. Because it is the benchmark that everybody's really kind of following up with. But let us know what you think. Hit us up on that hashtag. Join in the conversation on social media. What is your thoughts on Arrow hitting 150 and moving forward? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Mike Pappy from Rye Bread, and you're listening to the ODPH.
Coming back for the final segment on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition. Pat, why don't you kick us off with those one-shots?
Well, of course, we're going to talk a little bit about the X-Men universe because there was some interesting news that dropped this week. I know a lot of people are talking about the Disney and R-rated things, but that's not the first time that's been said that Marvel's doing R-rated movies. Look back on it. No, the big X-Men news that came out was during a Television Critics Association panel for Legion, where producer of the films Lauren Schuler Donner, who has produced every X-Men film since the original one in 2000, was on said panel for Legion. And after the panel, she spoke with some reporters where they got to ask her some questions. In regards to X-Men in the MCU, she said, quote, that would be, confirmed that all future X-Men decisions would be up to Disney and Feige. Duh. She said, quote, that would be between Fox and Disney. Obviously, Kevin and I started the first one. He was an associate producer on the first X-Men movie. He worked for me. He's got a great story sense. He's got a great ability to weave each world and weave these worlds together. I trust him, and I trust that he will take care of the X-Men. So that should kind of suggest that maybe they won't go the Spider-Man route. And, oh, hey, there already been a thing that, you know, he'll come up with his own way and do something with it. What that is remains to be seen. Obviously, the next two films being Dark Phoenix and New Mutants feature younger casts, which leads, okay, X-Men, MCU, what are they doing with Wolverine? To this point, Hugh Jackman is not reprising his role that we know of. I'm not ruling it out. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Who knows? But they did ask whether he would look for new Wolverine. He, being Kevin Feige, would look for new Wolverine. Lauren said, quote, yes, I don't know what Kevin's thinking, honestly. I don't even think Kevin knows. I think Kevin's still dealing with this wealth of characters and trying to make sense of them. So who's to say what's going to happen with it? I think they're going to go the younger route, or maybe kind of in between younger and Hugh Jackman. We'll see. As for the future X-Men films, she says, quote, that is up to Disney. This in referring to Gambit. She said that really is up to Disney. I hope so, but that's up to them. The problem is you can't have too many Marvel X-Men superhero movies out there because we will cancel each other out. Each one has to be distinctive, and yet you've got the Avengers to follow through. You've gotten so many distinctive story canons to follow through, and yet we want new ones. But I don't think you can have more than four. 4 is a lot because people are going to get sick of them, so we have to be careful. He has to be careful. In regards to Deadpool 2, suggested spin-off movie that could be on the way, she says, same as everything. This is all now Disney's playground, and they get to decide. At least we know it's in good hands. Everybody's worked really hard up to now on the Fox side, but now it's going to be Disney's call, close quote. The latest rumblings I've heard is that the Gambit movie's dead.
Yeah.
That, there was a lot going on behind the scenes, but it's dead, done. Who's to say? Now, they do have 2 films coming out that are done or in the editing process. I don't really know. The one being Dark Phoenix, although that one have been reading in a couple places is going to get a theatrical release. Mm-hmm. I'm slightly concerned though because we have one trailer and the film comes out in like 4 months.
Yeah,
I'm having shades of Fantastic Four reboot where we didn't see anything until like 6 months before the movie came out.
Yeah,
I'm having bad feelings about this one.
Yeah, I hear you on this one. This is one,
and this isn't just the deal's getting done, so we're not going to promote it. No, my understanding is that anything Fox puts into production before the deal goes done, they'll put out. So it's not a matter of Disney's burying it because they don't want to put out a X-Men movie before they take them over. No, they'll put it out. It's just it's concerning to me that you've had the delays and the pushbacks and the reshoots and the this and the that. That the film, we're sitting here in early February. The film comes out in almost literally 4 months. We've had one trailer, one poster. That's it. I mean, Avengers Endgame comes out in less time than that, and we've had more than that.
Yeah, like I was trying to say, it's something that I don't really know. I mean, it's just something about the Dark Phoenix movie.
Yeah.
Like, whenever you try doing the Phoenix Saga, this is like the kiss of death, so to speak, on whatever version of the X-Men you're doing.
Right.
I mean, you need to tell the story, but I don't know. I just don't know what's going on with this. And you're right. I mean, the fact that we've only had one trailer that really didn't say a lot, and it was there.
Yeah.
I mean, in my ODPH opinion, it's just like, it was there. I wasn't really like, yeah, I want to go see this, but I was like, kind of left a little more like interested, but more like I need to see more before I make an opinion.
Right. And then the other one, of course, is the new Mutants film, which we talked about on previous episodes, how excited we were for it. Lauren brought up in this one about, people asked about this one, whether we get a theatrical release. She said, I hope so. I hope it doesn't get dumped onto Hulu, which the only place I've ever seen that rumor is online in rumors that it would get a Hulu dump off. My kind of question is, okay, why is she saying this if it would get a theatrical release?
It's tough to say because I think that one is got a lot of more question marks than I want to say, a lot more mystery to it,
right,
than any of the other films. Because when we originally heard about it, we're definitely excited because it was going to be a horror movie,
right,
set in the X-Men universe,
right.
Uncharted water.
We'll say the release date on that one is August 2nd of this year. Still don't have anything.
We still don't. So, I mean, it might get dumped. It might not. It all really depends on when the deal is fully done with Marvel and Fox.
Signs are pointing to sometime in June.
Right. So when that gets done, I think we're going to have a clearer picture of what's going on. Now, you're probably going, okay, well, the deal is going to be done in June. The movie's coming out in August. That's not a lot of time. You're right. It isn't. And I think they already have an idea what they want to do, but I think they want to make sure the ink is dry on the contracts before they do anything.
Right.
I'm not doubting, and I'm really stressing this too, I'm not doubting it's going to get dumped or it's going to get pushed back. I could see an October release.
It could, but I think if they push it back one more time, they might just shelve the thing entirely.
Well, right, you kind of need to at that point, but I think August is a good time to do it. It's kind of the end of the summer movie blockbuster run.
Right, there's not a ton coming out at the end of the summer typically because you've had your big blockbusters. They've had their runs. They're in the cheap theaters where you can go for less than what you would normally pay. It's kind of a dead period. There might be a couple kids movies. There might be a couple family films. There might be a couple adult things that they just want to sneak in to get them in before anything else big comes out. It's a good time of year to do it.
Yeah, it's a very good time to do it. It's just a matter of like, boy, I don't know. There's so much you can go right and so much you can go wrong with it. That it's just one of those, it's like, man, I don't know what we can really kind of say about it.
Right.
And I'm hoping the best, but I'm also bracing for the worst with it. And then if they wipe the slate clean with the X universe coming into Disney, so be it. You know, just, like I say, nail it right on the first time. And if you're going to recast Wolverine, which I fully get, if you want to bring back Hugh Jackman as Old Man Logan,
right,
and do that version in the comics,
that'd be fun.
I'd be all right with that. In fact, I think they should do it for Deadpool 3.
Yeah.
That way you're not held to any storyline. You can kind of go whatever you want to do.
Well, so they could do it. Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman are quote-unquote feuding again, so they could do it.
Yeah, I think that can completely happen.
Which, if you haven't seen that video, you need to look it up.
Oh, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Definitely is. So for my one-shots, all right, I got a couple.
Okay.
Now, speaking of the X universe, and you did touch upon the conference that was talking about Legion, very vaguely. Legion, if you're not familiar with, is the story of Professor X's son.
Yep.
And it is mind-blowing on a whole bunch of different levels.
In the best way possible.
It is. It is, without question, the most artistically beautiful show you'll watch. The visuals on this show is just astonishing.
It's a masterpiece.
It is. It's hard to really describe because if you know the character of Legion, who is an Omega-level mutant and has multiple personalities and a lot of backstory that goes on, the fact that the show has made it as far as it has, I think is just a true credit to everybody behind the scenes with it.
Yeah.
Because this is not a character that you would think would resonate. I know we said that kind of vaguely about Arrow.
Yeah.
But Green Arrow has at least crossed over in cartoons and different formats. Legion is a tough sell.
Oh, yeah. When they announced the show and you were talking about it with me, I go, okay, that's all great and all. Who is he?
Yeah. And it's tough to say because he's, I don't want to say anti-hero.
Right.
Because I think it just depends on whatever storyline he's in. And if you know his history, and especially like from his beginnings with the New Mutants and where he's gone in the X universe too, I mean, technically he's the reason there was the Age of Apocalypse. Let's break it down like that. So you're kind of dealing with a force of nature, so to speak.
Yeah.
And obviously the show definitely teetered the line of you're not really sure what's going on to what's a dream sequence. And they've done it so masterfully too.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, unless you're super into the X-Men, you really didn't have an idea who the major villain was. Albeit, though, if you backtrack the tweets, I nailed it. I'm going to take some credit on that one. But to see that they're coming back and they're going to close the storyline out at season 3 is interesting. And at first, I'm just mad because I really like the show and I don't want to see it go away.
Right.
But I can understand it.
Yeah.
Because of where they've established they're going. And obviously, at this point, the only thing we know, and this is coming straight from Legion, it's Twitter itself, they have casted his parents. So there is going to be a Gabrielle, and there is going to be a Professor X
Oh, boy.
on the FX network when the show comes back.
Very interesting.
So that's going to be something to watch, but that's not even like the biggest news, which, I mean, it is big news for me.
Oh, yeah.
It is. But the other news coming out of FX, and I had to do a double take about this because I was actually really shocked. Why The Last Man? Now, if you're not familiar with that comic series, that is a long-standing DC Vertigo series that ran from 2002 to 2008. Brian K. Vaughan, Pia Guerrera, definitely like the story of The Last Man on Earth and like a realistic adult-themed story of what happens when there's only one man left on Earth is now coming to FX. I am super excited about this. If you've never read the book is amazing. It's definitely, when you talk about Vertigo comics, I know we talk about Preacher and Sandman. Y is up there too. Y is definitely a classic book. If you talk about it, it's just, there's so much going on, and you just take the simple thing of just, it's almost like the storyline of just, okay, what happens when there's only one man left on Earth, and where he goes through. It's very cool read. Like, I can't even get into like how much I'm just excited about this, and just trying to like really go into non-spoilers with this. Let me just say this: when the show comes out, you definitely need to check it out. And the fact that it's been picked up for a series by FX, I'm super excited because if they do it like they do Legion, I am fully on board with it.
Right.
And there's just the fact, and I know we've been touching upon it with networks and doing indie comics, so to speak, just the fact that we're getting to more of the Vertigo comics too and seeing the success on the small screen with it, I think is just truly remarkable that networks are taking the shot with it. I mean, Sci-Fi has definitely set the bar with Happy and Deadly Class, and yes, I know we didn't talk about Deadly Class because last week's ODPH we had 2 episodes to talk about.
This is true.
But as we're filming tonight on Wednesday, Deadly Class is back on Sci-Fi, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Check it out. But let's get back to FX. The fact they've taken Legion and ran with it, and they've done a great job, and they're going to close it out the way the creators want to, I think is truly astonishing. And the fact they're going to do Why the Last Man, definitely excited to see where that goes. So many good things coming to TV with the comics. I don't want to say indie comics because it's not typical superheroes. Mm-hmm. And just the more we're seeing that, the more we're seeing the diverse and the creativity of the comic universe come to life, I'm all about.
Right.
I'm so about. No timetable yet for when the series comes, but definitely keep an eye on FX and the ODPH because we'll be talking about that show when it comes out. So many good things coming to TV, but at your local comic book shops this week, I got to say, the new Daredevil is looking very, very interesting by Marvel Comics. Mm-hmm. They're kind of doing a re-up, a new creative team's doing it. Don't really have too many details, but anytime, especially coming off the heels of the Netflix show with a new creative team, it's always something to watch. I'm definitely interested to pick it up, so definitely hit down to your local comic book shops. Check that out. Check out all the new books coming out this week. Support your local shops, too. And my last one shot, because it just came out, Cloak and Dagger returning April 4th to Freeform. Mm-hmm. 2-hour season premiere. It's Mayhem season. Definitely check it out. Olivia Holt, Aubrey Joseph coming back, doing their thing. I am super, 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 super excited about this. Did I say I was excited?
Once or twice.
Just want to make sure it's coming out there. Definitely, obviously, this was the surprise hit for us last year. So I can only imagine what they're going to do this season.
Yeah, it'll be wild.
It's going to be wild, so definitely stay tuned to Freeform for that. April 4th, 2-hour season premiere. Can't wait for that. But that's all we got for this week. So for Padawan J.
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you, as always, for listening to the ODPH Entertainment Edition. We'll see you next time.